I'm honored tonight to introduce Brad Smith, President and Chief Legal Officer of Microsoft. When I think about Brad's day job, he leads 1,300 employees in 55 countries at one of the largest corporations in the world. Well, it makes my head spin. But apparently that small job was not enough for Brad. So Brad set out long ago to be a champion, perhaps one who has had the most lasting impact on unaccompanied immigrant children who come to this country. And it's for this work that Brad is rightfully being honored tonight. So why would a boy from Appleton, Wisconsin turn his focus to advancing human rights and social justice? In junior high, during summers, Brad earned pocket money stooped in the onion fields of Wisconsin alongside migrant workers who were picking crops. He saw injustice, migrant workers who toiled much harder than him but had more difficult lives. Their struggles would never leave him. At Princeton, he focused on international refugee law. At Columbia Law, he volunteered at the immigration clinic. And as a junior associate, he supported Covington and Burlington's work on asylum cases. At Microsoft, when staff wanted to provide support for UNHCR's efforts to aid Bosnians during the war, Brad said yes. And intent on growing Microsoft's pro bono program a decade ago, he identified a critical legal services gap and drew up a business plan for Microsoft to fund Volunteer Associates for Immigrant Justice in Seattle, a nonprofit which screened adults and children for asylum eligibility and trained attorneys to represent them pro bono. He cajoled these Seattle law firms to step up and help. And soon, Washington was the only state where every immigrant child was represented in immigration court. Awesome. So then Brad decided to go big, to take this model nationwide. And in 2009, Microsoft and UNHCR's Special Envoy, Angelina Jolie, launched and co-chaired Kids in Need of Defense. Since then, KIND has seen really just remarkable growth. Its reach now extends to 10 cities across the country, and Guatemala, where it works to ensure that children who are ordered deported get help reintegrating into their home countries so they don't have to turn around and make this horrific journey through Mexico to reach the United States, a journey that I know too well. I spent 3 months riding on freight trains through Mexico to chronicle this journey, and children face bandits, gangsters. They lose their arms and legs on this riding on top of this freight train. Many of them lose their lives and do not arrive at our border. Brad has done all of this work for free because he felt it was the right thing to do. Brad's goal, it's simple and yet truly daunting. He wants to ensure that no child goes to immigration court without a legal advocate there by their side. We live in a country where, if you're an accused murderer, you're going to be assigned a public defender if you can't afford a lawyer, but not an immigrant child. Most children, they can't afford a lawyer, and so they have to go before that judge and argue their cases alone. It's really shocking. I watched a 7-year-old boy in LA immigration court stand before that immigration judge. He was shaking like a leaf standing before him. He was being asked to present a complex asylum case. Children are being expected to fill out dozens of pages in English when obviously they only speak Spanish, get expert witnesses, requisition police reports from their home countries. 3- and 4-year-olds stand alone before these judges, and they pee in their pants, they clutch their teddy bears. Any word that they utter to that judge can send them hurtling back to the danger that they have just fled. Back to El Salvador, which has a higher homicide rate than during the Civil War, which I covered back in the early 80s. I mean, they wiped out whole villages. There were bodies strewn on the streets in the morning. Or Honduras, or Guatemala, countries that have kill rates that are second only to Syria around the world. In Honduras, in 3 recent years, 500 children ages 13 and younger have been murdered. This is in a country with a smaller population than New York City. Imagine 500 bodies littering the streets of New York City of young children in 3 years. Brad saw this for what it is. This is not due process. It is unjust. It is a sham. It is not worthy of a great nation. And so he set about fixing it. Kind has roped in more than 320 law firms and has trained more than 12,500 lawyers to take a child's case pro bono. Kind lawyers have represented thousands and thousands of these children. Kind, and I have no doubt about this, has saved many, many children's lives. It's important to remember that it's actually legal to come to this country and present yourself at our border and ask for asylum, ask for safety. But without a lawyer, children, honestly, they're doomed. Only 1 in 10 is granted the right to stay without representation. With a lawyer, 7 in 10 of these children win. And with a kind lawyer, it's even better. 9 in 10 of these kids win their cases. The Vera Institute has been there with Kind really every step of the way, growing its mission. And it's been fascinating to me to watch Brad's commitment and his passion and his zeal for this mission. You know, I started my reporting career just a few blocks from here. My first decade was as a journalist for the Wall Street Journal. Most folks at the top of these big businesses were focused quite strictly on the bottom line. I have marveled at how Brad brings a corporate, a strategic, a laser beam-like approach focused on results to the task of social justice. It isn't enough to do good. He challenges everyone to do good well. He is always asking at board meetings, how do we do this better? How do we look ahead? How do we help more children? He is thoughtful, he's intense, and he's determined. He has been, and honestly, I'm a cynical journalist, I don't use this term lightly, he has been a visionary. I wish more do-gooders had these remarkable skills and would bring them to the nonprofit world. You know, the work isn't done, and really far from it. His commitment to legal representation for immigrant children is more pressing each day. More than half of these children, they're still going to court alone with no help. And that number will worsen in the coming months. The US government is projecting a record number of these children, 70 to 77,000, will arrive at our border this year and be apprehended by the US government. They will be seeking safety, and likely this will be a higher number than during the surge that we saw in 2014 when all our political leaders had their hair on fire about this issue. Combined with the toxic primary political season and concerns about the Zika virus marching north, these children need every single defender on deck. I know that Brad will, as always, be leading that way, and he'll be advocating for these children who really are one of the most vulnerable groups in our country, before Congress, the administration, the media. Immigrant children are in very, very good hands. Thank you for your commitment, for giving countless children justice and giving them hope, and for modeling to other business chieftains how they can step up and help and do the right thing. Congratulations, Brad, on this incredibly deserving award.
Well, thank you, Sonia. First of all, you've just seen, for every lawyer in the room, as I've learned serving with Sonia on the KIND board, she takes advocacy to a whole new level. She's the one person I know who has taken this complicated issue and brought it to life on the pages of the New York Times, before congressional committees, and on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Yeah. Before I say anything else, I do want to say to the Vera employee in the video who said that you use an Excel spreadsheet to solve all of your problems, I have come all the way from Seattle on behalf of Microsoft to say thank you. We appreciate that. And in all seriousness, I really do want to say what a special pleasure it is to be here this evening with all of you, with so many distinguished public servants, on a night when Eric Holder is on the stage. A person who I know well is a great lawyer from a great firm, who was a great attorney general, and who perhaps most importantly, as we always found when we brought to him the issues for these kids, just how important it is to have in high office an official who is a great human being. Thank you. But let me just say a few words about Kids in Need of Defense, KIND, and the incredible partnership with Vera. There are some parallels between our two organizations. We're a lot younger. We're not 55 years old. But like you, we have our roots in a relationship and a commitment that brought together lawyers and non-lawyers alike. And in our case, some roots here in New York. It was the coincidence that Angelina Jolie happened to be filming a movie here when she and I first had the opportunity to talk back in 2007 about what it would mean to create this new organization. We had a dream, I have to say, a vision that, as Sonia described it, that there would come a day when every child that comes to this country and stands before an immigration judge would stand not with a teddy bear, but with a lawyer and have someone to make their case. There are days when I frankly am amazed at the number of people who have joined this cause. You know, today, KIND is up and running in Boston, in New York, in Newark, in Baltimore, in DC, in Atlanta, in Houston, in Los Angeles, in San Francisco, and Seattle. We have, as you heard, 329 partners, law firms, legal departments, law schools, and bar associations. We have 12,000 pro bono lawyers involved in championing the needs of these kids. But through it all, there has been one partner that has been not just at the center, but in many ways has been our foundation. It is Vera. It is our ability to come together from the very start, the ability to partner together and, frankly, to pursue part of the vision we always understood would be essential. A recognition that despite the best involvement of so many pro bono lawyers, we would need some federal support. And so from the very first days, we turned to Vera for Vera's help, and we got some federal funding. And last year, when thanks to leaders like Eric Holder, when the government decided to make more money available for this cause, we applied together with Vera as the prime contractor and KIND as the leading subcontractor. We pursued a contract that the federal government made available, divided into 6 regions around the country. And when we got the news that together we had won that contract for 5 of the 6 regions, we did something pretty amazing. First, we celebrated. And second, in the best tradition of government procurement practices, we looked at the region we lost, and we complained, and we protested, and then we won that one too. We are growing as a result. We're in more cities, we have more lawyers, we're taking more cases, and that gives all of us hope. But it is hope that comes at a difficult time. Because when I had that first conversation with Angelina Jolie here in New York, it was a time when each year there were 8,500 kids coming to this country unaccompanied by their families and needing a lawyer. We have made so much progress, and yet in truth we are farther away from realizing our original vision than we have ever been because the numbers have grown. And despite what some people may read about or see about or watch people argue about, the truth is, unfortunately, altogether clear. Kids are fleeing Central America because if they stay, in all too many cases, they will die. And as a result, their mothers and their fathers are giving them the little money they can and sending them on their way. And these kids brave such challenge and hardship. There are kids that turn back. There are girls that are raped. There are kids that are kidnapped. There are kids that are murdered. It is the lucky ones who are our clients. And believe me, when you meet these kids, among everything else, you come to appreciate what they offer to the future of our country. And you appreciate the stories they have to tell, the stories that need to be heard, but the stories that require a lawyer by their side to have the impact and get the relief that they need. We're going to keep moving ahead. We're going to keep growing, and I believe we're going to keep making progress together. I want you to know, on behalf of all of us on the KIND board, on behalf of everybody who works for KIND, on behalf of the 12,000 volunteers who are spending their time on these kinds of cases, we deeply appreciate the leadership that Vera has provided and the partnership we have forged. I want you to know, every day we stand on your shoulders, and every day we appreciate the strength of the shoulders on which we stand. Thank you very much.